Good morning, you're watching The Mint. I'm Andy Hodges. A quick look at closing prices on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, African currencies, commodities, basic commodities, metal and energy prices. Our top story, investing in African mining in Daba is solely dedicated to the successful capitalization and development of mining interest in Africa. Located in Cape Town, South Africa for over 25 years, this event unites investors, mining companies, governments and other stakeholders from around the world to learn and network, all towards the single goal of advancing mining on the continent. Also known as Mining in Daba, it is also dedicated to supporting education, career development, sustainable development and other important causes in Africa. The 2020 installment of the Investing in African Mining in Daba may not have had President Cyril Ramaphosa as a guest speaker like 2019 did, but this did not stop the annual event from attracting more leaders and delegates. This is according to the Investing in African Mining in Daba's portfolio director, Simon Ford, who spoke to Fin24 on the last day of the event in Cape Town. Highlights from this year's Mining in Daba included two major announcements from Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe. Mantashe said that mining companies would soon be allowed to generate their own power to ease pressure on Eskom. He also announced plans to develop a power generation entity outside of Eskom, which he expects to start gathering pace early next year. But this year's Indaba was not without its challenges, as high-profile speakers fell away from the program on multiple occasions during the week. The 2019 Mining Indaba was also always going to be a tough act to follow due to Ramaphosa's appearance as the first sitting South African president to address the event. Issues covered at the event also included discussions about cobalt and electric cars, corporate social responsibility and inclusivity. The Mint spoke to Oscar Habinzu, an analyst based in South Africa.
On the battery metals, which is your cobalt, to be quite honest. And interestingly, DRC was coming up and on a lot of the conversations around the battery metals, because you know the future is with the battery metals because of the electric cars and many other gadgets that are reliant on cobalt. There is a talk of how to help youth, and actually mining companies are getting into their communities where they have operations happening and actually helping the youth. That, if you actually look at it, it helps your issues of the illegal minings. It reduces that, but also most importantly, there's the aspect of harvesting the demographic dividend, especially of the 18 to 24-year-olds, which are the major youths that need to actually that are a major part of the unemployed. So the mining companies as a continent have come up with certain corporate social investment projects to actually help the youth. There are billions that are being poured into Africa for mining, but one of the things that governments are being urged at the convention is inclusivity, because there is that need to include the communities so that the communities benefit. The aspect of decarbonization, pollution is a major conversation, as health threats and safety threats have actually been covered in several news outlets in a lot of countries. And countries in attendance or represented by government officials included Ghana, Sierra Leone, and the DRC. And this year, one of the most important things that was being spoken about in mining operations is sustainability. Sustainability is a very important thing that was raised, and a lot of the economists that were there and panelists were pushing for that aspect of sustainability.
This year was the first Mining Indaba to be hosted after a full year of the event being owned by Hy-Vee Group. Hy-Vee Group, formerly known as ITE, acquired the Mining Indaba from fellow London Stock Exchange listed company Euromoney in 2018 for £30 million. Ford told Fin24 that the Mining Indaba of 2020 had hundreds more delegates than the 2019 edition of the event, showing significant growth. The number of governments and the number of heads of state visiting the Indaba increased from last year. This year's Indaba included addresses from Sierra Leone President Julius Maada Bio and Democratic Republic of Congo President Félix Tshisekedi. The Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union President Joseph Mathunjwa stayed away from the Indaba in protest against the Lily Mine rockfall in Barberton and Mpumalanga in 2016. African leaders met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia for the annual African Union AU Summit. This year's theme was Silencing the Guns, reviving an aspiration set out by African leaders in 2013 to end war and prevent genocide on the continent by 2020. Though the aim of resolving all conflicts in 7 years set the bar high, the AU has scored some successes. Just this past year, for example, it stepped in at critical moments to preserve Sudan's revolution and stop it from descending into violence, and help produce an agreement between the government and rebels in the Central African Republic, CAR. Elsewhere, however, from Cameroon to the Sahel to South Sudan, it has fallen short. Moreover, African leaders today appear cagier than in the past about collective peacemaking, with some apparently wanting to restrain the continental body's peace and security role. The AU made notable interventions in two major crises in 2019. The Peace and Security Council, PSC, the continent's standing decision-making body for conflict prevention, management and resolution, showed its mettle after President Omar al-Bashir's ouster in Sudan. The PSC suspended Sudan's membership in early June. The AU then helped mediate between civilian and military leaders. The AU also asserted its primacy in CAR's peace process, sponsoring an agreement between the government and 14 rebel groups while absorbing a Russia-Sudanese initiative that threatened to become a parallel dialogue. In other countries, the AU has not been so successful. It failed to prevent the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon from spiraling into almost full-blown civil war. It has largely been a bystander to the instability sweeping the Sahel, and it has taken a back seat in efforts to end South Sudan's brutal conflict. The February summit provided an opportunity for the AU and African leaders to make a clear statement of intent towards ending some of the continent's worst crises. South Africa took over the rotational chair from Egypt and has made silencing the guns a priority for its term at the organization's helm. 8 areas where President Ramaphosa and the AU can focus during the course of the year are: number 1, seeking a compromise with the United Nations over co-funding of peace operations. At the core of the discussion is the AU's efforts to secure an agreement whereby the United Nations would cover 75% of the costs for Security Council authorized AU-led peacekeeping missions, and the AU would cover the remaining 25%. Secondly, supporting pivotal elections in Ethiopia and standing ready to mediate in the event of disputes over results. Ethiopia, the continent's second most populous country, is in the midst of a promising but turbulent transition. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government pledges that the elections, tentatively scheduled for 16 August 2020, will be the most peaceful and competitive in the country's history. Deterring leaders in Cote d'Ivoire and Guinea from using constitutional amendments to hold on to power. That's another issue. And of course, helping calm Burkina Faso's insurgency and avert election violence. Pressing Yaoundé, Cameroon, and separatists towards more inclusive dialogue to help end the crisis in Cameroon's Anglophone regions. Cameroon's Anglophone crisis has claimed around 3,000 lives since 2017 and taken a severe toll on citizens. Pushing the Somali government and regional leaders towards a compromise ahead of Somalia's elections. Somalia is due to hold parliamentary and presidential elections in December 2020 and early 2021, respectively. But fraught relations between the federal government of President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo and Somalia's regions or federal member states threaten to blight the ballot. pressing East African heads of state to step up their efforts to keep South Sudan's peace process on track. South Sudan's peace process is floundering. A ceasefire in place since the latest peace deal signed in September 2018 by the two main belligerents, President Salva Kiir and his former Vice President Riek Machar, is thankfully holding. Supporting Sudan's transition by offering to act as a guarantor of the deal between the security forces and civilian leaders is important. Sudan's transition remains promising, albeit on shaky ground. The country faces acute economic and security challenges, and the population is hungry for change, having seen few dividends since the new administration took office. While not exhaustive, this list represents opportunities where the African Union likely can have the greatest impact over the coming year. Zimbabwe officially joined the African Continental Free Trade Area despite outstanding issues, in the spirit of moving forward and our commitment to the principles that inspired the establishment of AFCA, President Mnangagwa said. In June last year, the Zimbabwe government said it would fully implement the AFCA after 15 years, when the country is expected to have fully industrialized. Innovation hubs are social communities or workspace or research centers that provide subject matter expertise on technology trends, knowledge and strategic innovation management and industry-specific insights. An innovation hub is a place which provides facilities to nurture new ideas and help develop inquisitive perspective in youths of today. These hubs serve as springboards for new ideas and innovation, and thus help the society and economy to face future challenges and meet rising aspirations of the growing population. There are currently upwards of 6 innovation hubs set up at universities around Zimbabwe. We asked Zimbabwe's Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education, Innovation, Science and Technology Development, Professor Muriwa, on a recent episode of the Mint Special about what tangible results have emerged from Zimbabwe's innovation hubs.
We have made some modest progress. I want to be humble, but I want to tell you that within 1 year that we have started the operationalization of our innovation hubs, for the first time, UZ has applied for more than 50 patents. YIT has applied for more than 20 patents. Ah, fantastic. And Chinoi has started an artificial insemination program. We've automated them, we've supported them. And let's say each one, nominally it costs $40. It means 7 million times to $20 times 20 is a potential of $140 million in terms of revenue accruing to Chinoi. Midland State University, they are involved in making of tiles from waste materials, which they have patented, and they are also, which they are applying for patents. They have also done the growing of cattle feed within 7 days through hydroponics. Amazing stuff that we are doing. And at UZ, for example, I will tell you that we are sponsoring 16 students who had graduated, and His Excellency the President, Dr. Idi Mnangagwa, said, why don't we have a system of nurturing them even after graduation so that we move the innovation system? So we have taken 16 students who are doing their projects at the Innovation Hub at UZ, and we've sponsored them until their projects are come to fruition.
Zimbabwe's education system must be structured in such a way as to make innovation a key plank of the higher and tertiary curriculum, which is exactly what the minister says he intends to do. Graduates must learn how to think and invent, and not go to educational facilities with the sole aim of getting a job. Zimbabwe's youth need to become entrepreneurs in their own right, and so become the business future of the nation. The United States and Kenya have agreed to launch negotiations that could lead to the first U.S. bilateral trade deal with a sub-Saharan African country, amid growing American concerns about China's investments across the continent. U.S. President Donald Trump and Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta announced the intention to start formal talks on the trade agreement after meeting at the White House. Trump directed U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer to issue a formal notification to Congress about the talks under the fast-track trade negotiating law. The East African nation, which needs to boost exports to create jobs at home for millions of young people and bolster hard currency earnings, has seen an increase in U.S. tourists and growing investments by companies like Google owner Alphabet. Kenyatta told a forum at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce his country was keen to secure its economic future ahead of the expiry of the U.S. Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, which allows sub-Saharan African countries to export thousands of products to the United States without tariffs or quotas until 2025. Both sides were eager to move forward quickly, Kenyatta said. He said a new trade deal could make Kenya a hub for U.S. companies doing business in Africa and beyond, re-energizing close ties established during Kenya's struggle for independence. Betty Maina, Kenya's designated trade minister, said U.S. officials would travel to Kenya in May, and Kenyatta hoped to complete the trade deal within 2 years. You've been watching The Mint. I'm Andy Hodges. Please follow us on our Facebook page, Zim Papers TV Network, our website, ztn.co.zw, and on YouTube under ZTN. Your comments are welcome via our Twitter handle @ZTN News and on Facebook. Join us here on The Mint every weekday morning at 6 a.m. Central African Time. Well, that's it from me this morning. Goodbye. Have a profitable business day, and you all be safe.